Welcome to a brand new edition of NFL Power Rankings. We are presented by Energizer. Along with Eric at home, Mike Yam with you. A complete list of all 32 teams and where they sit according to Eric, available on NFL.com. Before we jump into these rankings, Eric, I got to tell you, like heading into week number 12, you almost felt like it was must-win scenario for a few teams that got it done and are still alive in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, there's really about 20 teams that are still in this mix. I think we're going to sort a lot out this week, obviously starting with a great Thanksgiving lineup. But I love the fact that we've got a deep field and only one team, I think, has been eliminated. Sorry about your Giants, Mike.
We don't need to go there. Although I did try to say, do we need to talk about the Lions and what transpired? We will do that coming up in just a couple of minutes. But let's take a closer look at the rankings. Team number one, and the Rams are showing they might be the class of the NFL, sitting at number one in the power rankings. The Seahawks rebounded off of that loss to the Rams with the win against the Titans. They sit at number two. The Broncos were idle. They sit at three. The Colts at four. The Patriots at five. We'll discuss them in just a few moments. Philadelphia, some concerns. I feel like there's always been concerns all year, even when they've been winning games, but they've dropped 3 spots to 6. They got the Packers and those Lions sitting at 7 and 8, respectively. All right, let's focus in at number one. We got a Rams team that once again handles business. Are you ready to say, I know the rankings, you have them one, and it's a fluid situation every single week here, but are the Rams the best team in the NFL?
That's why they're top of my list. I mean, look, I know it's been one of these seasons where we've had a rotating cast of characters up there, but right now at this point, it certainly feels like it. There is no such thing as a perfect team, right? And we have seen some higher end defenses kind of sink their teeth, have a little success against the Rams, Texans, Eagles, Seahawks, even the Ravens a couple weeks ago. But there's a reason Matthew Stafford is an MVP candidate. He's playing terrific. The interceptions are low, the touchdowns are high. That is always a good thing. 2 elite receivers, all those tight ends, we'll see if the O-line can handle a great D-line. That's going to be maybe a litmus test for them, but they seem to have a kicker too. Harrison Mevis makes a 52-yarder. Sean McVay starts smiling. I mean, that's one of the things that had been their Achilles heel up to this point. So if they've solved the kicking issue, Mike, we might be talking about the best all-around team in terms of fewest weaknesses and most strengths.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, you got some shrewd moves, and I think there were some questions about this team's secondary, and yet the reality is a couple of those guys are now balling out, not necessarily worried about the pressure that they can get on quarterbacks, holistically speaking, but right now, as complete as you could look at this point of the season, hopefully they stay healthy the rest of the way. Now, the Colts are a team that sit 4 on your power rankings. I know they lost to the Chiefs here, but how worried, I know on NFL.com you wrote like this is a cooling period for them. Are you concerned about what this team can be?
Yeah, it's hard not to notice the trend recently of the offense kind of sagging, right? This is still the top scoring offense in the league, but they're kind of still living off their laurels what they did the first 8 or so weeks of the season. If you take Jonathan Taylor out of the game, like the Chiefs did Sunday, had that 127-yard run, did virtually nothing else the rest of the day, you can have some success. At least the last few games appear to have shown that. So, defensively, they tried their best to slow Mahomes down, kept the score in their favor most of the game, but late in the game, they hit those big pass plays, and it really started to kind of unravel from there. I think settling for a couple of field goals early in the second half ended up being the difference. They were up 20-9, but that wasn't enough. They needed to score at least 1 touchdown, if not 2 there. So, yeah, it's just been this lack of deep shots. They got real conservative late in the game. Mike, 12 plays in the fourth quarter and overtime, 13 yards, no first downs, no points, and that's really the story of that game Sunday. Will it carry over? They got a big game this week against Houston, and the division's all of a sudden up for grabs.
Yeah, and a Houston team that is starting to surge all of a sudden with Davis Mills as their quarterback. That defense is really scary. The Colts are going to have a significant challenge. Hopefully Jonathan Taylor gets it going for those Colts fans that are out there. Time for Future Champions. It is presented by FanDuel. Let's take a closer look at the AFC East, Eric. I look at the odds to go and win this thing. The Patriots, the favorite, at -600. The Bills at +480. At +30,000, the Miami Dolphins. The Jets don't even have odds because they can't go and win this division. But from a Patriots perspective, this is a team that's won 9 straight. It didn't necessarily look the way that it has looked. I think there were some questions really about how proficient this offense was, and I think that's a fair assessment after what we witnessed there. Take me through why you have the Patriots still as one of the better teams in the NFL and arguably a team that could make a run to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like the Colts, I have some worries here, right? And the two big things that just happened on Sunday, injuries to Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, two rookie offensive linemen who are playing great, could miss multiple games. We'll have to see on that. Of course, Giants bring the pass rush. We'll see them on Monday Night Football. But yeah, those are the two biggest things right now. Drake May didn't have a great first quarter against the Bengals. They moved the ball consistently all game after that. However, two stalls, if you will, at the goal line. One was a turnover on downs, one a field goal. Really kind of kept this game a lot closer than it should have been. So they could have blown them out a little bit early. Defense did pretty good work against Joe Flacco. Kind of lucky they didn't get Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins also got hurt. But yeah, some little signs of worry kind of kicking in a little bit here. They haven't played the toughest of schedules either, so there are still some doubters out there. Is this a Super Bowl caliber team? Right now, their record says it is, and a lot of the numbers suggest they are, but I'm still kind of holding back slightly until I see how this group fares without two starters up front.
Yeah, and I think from a Cincinnati perspective, Joe Burrow making his return, we'll get that on Thanksgiving. We'll talk about the Bengals a little bit later. There's some juice now all of a sudden around that team. I'm really looking forward to seeing, though, how a ball club that is maybe not as experienced as some of those other teams in the Patriots, that is, how they're able to navigate the next couple of weeks of the season, because they are still in the driver's seat, not only for the division, but to make a deep run in the postseason. The Eagles, it's almost like we're waiting for the other shoe to fall off with this squad, right? I mean, it seems like even when they win, there's negative vibes around this team. They go and lose. They had a 21-point lead against the Dallas Cowboys, biggest comeback that Dak Prescott has had in his career. They go on and win this thing late. Panic button for you. Like, are we stomping on it? Or are we saying, hey, it's okay, like we'll be okay? From an Eagles fan's perspective.
Yeah, on the one hand, obviously, the numbers suggest they're the major favorite to win the NFC East. Getting in the playoffs should not be a problem, but what kind of shape are they going to be in, especially offensively, when they do get there? And, you know, Sunday was an encapsulation of it. They seem determined to come out wanting to prove people they can throw the football in the intermediate part of the field, you know, exploring parts of the field they haven't really thrown to a lot. Had success, 3 touchdowns and 3 drives, and then everything really fell apart. And I've just seen a bad habit of, and whether it's Nick Sirianni or somebody else on staff there, but they've been a little bit conservative at the ends of first halves. Strangely, they've been very aggressive at the ends of games with leads, but not going for points with 2 timeouts. Still had 20 seconds on the clock. I don't know if they felt like that lead was good with their defense, but in recent games, everything's been so tight offensively, so limited. You'd think they'd want to take some chances. Look, Lane Johnson's out. I mean, there are reasons why they can't run the football. There are reasons why Saquon Barkley is having trouble getting going. He had such a high workload last year. They can't lean on him the way they used to. But they should be able to move the ball more consistently and avoid a meltdown like that. I didn't think this team was capable of blowing a 21-point lead, even against a rival on the road.
Especially because of the way the defense is played, Eric. Like, if you tell me, hey, you give them 21, this defense has been kind of their calling card this year. For as much as we talk about Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and the drama, it always seems to center around their offense. But the reality is this defense is ridiculously good. It's surprising to see a Dallas comeback the way that it all had transpired. But look, we get them on Black Friday. We'll get an opportunity to see them against the Chicago Bears. That is a prime video game. It's not a video game, but it's a Prime Video space game. You know where I'm going with this. Packers sitting at number 7 right now. This is a team that has been sort of like this, a wave all season long here. I thought it was impressive. Even without Josh Jacobs, still finding a way to go get it done. But to me, Eric, speaking of defense, 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. Green Bay's defense, they showed up in a meaningful way against Minnesota.
Yeah, and it seems strange to say. People aren't really talking about Micah Parsons, but he had a big imprint on this game. He's had his imprint on several other games as well. And look, outside of the Dallas game, maybe 1 or 2 other contests, they've been terrific defensively. 8 of their 11 opponents have been held to 20 points or fewer. When they score 23 or more, they have not lost the game this year, just the 1 tie against Dallas. So that's the formula. That's really what's born out of this. I understand that, Tucker Kraft's out for the year. You can't get him back. There's only so much you can get from the receiver position until Matthew Golden and Reed come back and people like that. So, Jacobs will find his place eventually. Wilson stepped in, like you said, and had a great game. But I think we have to temper our expectations offensively and understand that 23 points is kind of the mark now. If you do that, you should be able to win football games, but they've fallen short of that against the Eagles and other tough teams. So, again, it's going to be a litmus test on Thursday and going forward to see if they can produce scoring drives more than once or twice a game.
Yeah, and look, we'll see what they can do on Thanksgiving against a Lions team that sits 8th right now in the power rankings. I think the one thing for me, as you sort of assess this matchup, Detroit, 2 weeks ago we're sitting there going, hey, what happens in this offense? 3 weeks ago we're saying, oh, Dan Campbell, play calling, look at the explosion here. Now all of a sudden, from a defensive perspective, look, it's my Giants, so I can say this. New York played well offensively against this team. Are we just at a point now with Detroit where getting a complete game might be a little bit much to ask for?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a minute now since you've had that 3-phase game where everything's kind of been locked in. And look, I don't know if they let up early or if they were kind of victims to some of those trick plays that they called. And Jameis, obviously a fearless guy, is going to let it rip at every opportunity. But, with the number of pieces the Giants are missing, this is a little bit concerning. They will get Marcus Davenport back. They will get Josh Pascal back at some point. The secondary's getting better. Eventually, Kirby Joseph and Terry Arnold will be back. But DJ Reed's still working his way back into a full workload and all that. But the low percentage throws that were being completed on Sunday, that's the kind of thing you have to worry about. That's against better quarterbacks and better teams. That's the kind of play that they haven't really been able to stop. So it starts Thursday, as you mentioned. This game, I think, means more to Detroit than it does to Green Bay. Not that it doesn't mean something to the Packers, but that Detroit's in that stalking position. They're outside of the playoffs looking in right now, and they need every single victory they can get against this brutal schedule they face this season.
Yeah, and that guy, Jahmyr Gibbs, is really good. To see how fast he is, I mean, you got NFL DBs chasing him, and they can't catch up to him. It really is remarkable. It goes back to positional value in the draft, and I know you're going to be in the weeds. I think, Eric, you're heading to the Senior Bowl, but I remember when they drafted him in the first round, people were like, oh, you can't take a running back that high. If he's a baller, you can, because he's helping you win some football games. Jahmyr Gibbs, an absolute monster. Just getting started here on NFL Power Rankings. We'll focus in on a Kansas City Chiefs team that might have saved their season. We still have some other questions on some other talented squads as well, including the Buffalo Bills. Where they sit in the rankings is still to come.
Power Rankings is brought to you by Energizer. Still going.
Welcome back to Power Rankings. Getting ready for Thanksgiving, the 4th annual John Madden Thanksgiving celebration. It starts off at 1 Eastern time. We got the Packers and Lions, a very meaningful game between the Chiefs and the Cowboys at 4:30 Eastern. We will talk about both of those teams coming up in just a bit. Joe Burrow making his return. Bengals and Ravens. Let's get you to teams 9 through 16 right now. The Niners figure out a way on Monday Night Football. You don't win too many games when your quarterback throws 3 interceptions. They did, though. The Bills sitting at 10. The Chicago Bears 8-3 at number 11. The Chiefs saved their season. They are at 12. That Ravens squad, they keep winning games. It just doesn't look great at times. We'll see what they look like on Thanksgiving. The Jags at 14. The Texans and Steelers rounding it out at 15 and 16. All right, post-game, Monday Night Football, we're sitting there and I'm watching Kyle Shanahan kind of say, hey, it's not that big of a deal, right? He kind of downplayed those interceptions from Brock Purdy. Brock even said, hey, I felt good about the reads, just where the ball was thrown in place a little late. That was a problem. Should I be concerned about 3 picks moving forward?
Yeah, I think you should, right? I understand the reasoning behind it. I understand the thinking, but and credit to Brock. I mean, he dialed into the second half, didn't miss a throw. I think it was 9 for 9 off the top of my head. So, he figured it out. Of course, J.C. Horn wasn't out there for much of it. So, the fact that the guy who picked him off twice wasn't involved may have had something to do with it, but he got figured out. Now, I know Mac Jones' interception total has been much lower, but, Christian McCaffrey, they're going to ride him till the wheels come off. It was great to see George Kittle back in the kind of the driver's seat as a huge player. The script is way different than we thought it would be in August, but they're still finding ways to win games. And boy, I don't know if they can do it against the elite offenses, but this defense turned into performance. And, the next few games aren't against the most terrifying offenses. So we'll have to see till they face the Colts and the Bears and the Seahawks the final time, whether they can slow down those elite groups. But credit to that defense, missing 3 big players up front. They really made a difference on Sunday or Monday night, excuse me.
Only other thing I'll add to this conversation, because he's been so great this season, I have to say this, Christian McCaffrey, he is on pace for 422 touches. He leads the NFL in receptions with 81. Not running backs. He leads the NFL in receptions. The guy has been masterful so far this season. At number 10, we got a Bills team that has dropped 3 spots. Eric, Josh Allen was under constant duress. I know Houston's defense is really good, though. Like, how good is this Bills team? Because now I'm starting to question how far this squad can really go.
I mean, we can't say they're in the playoffs definitively. It feels like the AFC East is out of reach. I mean, this season, the trajectory has changed completely. There have been a lot of issues. The pass protection was never a problem in the past, or very rarely, I should say. If it was on Josh. I think some of these were obviously on Allen, holding onto the ball, trying to get receivers to uncover. It wasn't happening. That lack of a true separator at receiver, especially beyond the sticks. That's really what I think they're lacking offensively. The way that the 49ers are using McCaffrey is the way that the Bills are not using James Cook too. Yeah. If they're going to try to, justify making this guy a high-paid running back, why not use him like that kind of a weapon? Give him more than 3 catches. Give him more than 17 touches out of the backfield. So, there's still that offensive identity question, and then all the defensive, sort of limitations, I guess you would say. Some games they're pretty good, but kind of like we were saying with the Niners too. Against the elite offenses, you're not going to see them play that outstanding level of ball, I don't think, on the defensive side. So, yeah, those questions all exist. Firepower is there, but it comes out way too infrequently for my liking.
They get the Steelers this coming week. At number 11, it's the Chicago Bears, who moved up 3 spots on your rankings. I'm actually really excited about this Black Friday game against Philadelphia, because I think the Eagles are in desperation mode. And maybe we get some clarity on this question. Are the Bears a good football team?
I think they are, right? Obviously, you look at the point differential and you look at, who they've played and some of the metrics, and it doesn't quite add up. And that's, part of the reason why I've kind of held back. Record-wise, they should be higher on this list. But, until they have some of these signature victories, and they missed Aaron Rodgers on Sunday, still had Mason Rudolph had the ball in his hand with a chance to either win or tie the game late. So they do sort of leave you questioning their strength just a little bit, but Ben Johnson has made this offense a whole lot better. They have an identity now. Caleb Williams misfire, but also made some great plays as well. Want to see a little more consistency catching the football too from DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and those guys, Luther Burden, etc. But, if their secondary is getting healthier, and some of these games will provide a little bit better test. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think this game is going to be an outstanding. Their strengths and weaknesses and the Eagles kind of oil and vinegar situation setting up. So it's going to tell us a lot about both the Eagles and the Bears, I think.
Yeah, 6-1 in one-score games. They're battle-tested right now.
Yep.
They once again move up 3 spots on your rankings. Time for Power Moves. It's presented by Energizer. There's another team that moved up 3 spots. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. Is it as simple as me saying, Eric, they saved their season with that win against the Colts?
I think you're right. I think if they lose that game at home, where they've been very good this year, only the one loss previously to the Eagles. So, I think if that had happened at 20-9 down in the fourth quarter, it looked entirely possible. We're probably talking about them not only on the outside looking in, but what is the future of this team? What do they look like next year? We're not there yet. Patrick Mahomes had some great moments late. The receivers stepped up. The offensive line with Trey Smith out did its best job, I think. Secondary defense played really great down the stretch, and those are all positive things, but they did put themselves in a little bit of a hole. And kind of like last year, we're always questioning their level of dominance because they're in close games. But at least they got the one-score victory that was so common in 2024 and so absent this season. That was their first of the year. That tells a lot about where they are right now in the standings. But still, on the whole, I think this is a team most opponents will fear, given that their history has proven that they can hang with virtually anybody at any time in any field.
I actually think this is going to be a great game on Thanksgiving, because the Dallas Cowboys all of a sudden look like a very complete team, and I can't believe I'm speaking those words after what I saw just a few weeks ago this season. They've really turned it around.
Yeah.
More on them in just a moment. But the Houston Texans, explain to me what's gone on with this team. They couldn't figure out ways to win. Now all of a sudden it's the defense that's been pretty good all season long. But my God, what they did against Josh Allen was impressive. And they don't even have their quarterback. Davis Mills is 3-0 as a starter.
Yeah, and this third game was probably his weakest game, but he did settle down after a really slow start. He's likely heading back to the bench. We're probably going to see CJ Stroud, assuming he's healthy down the stretch. But I think the pressure in the bar has been kind of raised for CJ here. I mean, Davis Mills played better than what you would expect out of a replacement level backup. So he did his job very well. CJ Stroud now has to kind of answer and kind of raise the bar a little bit for this offense. So not all on him, but got to get the ball to Higgins and those young receivers. Nico Collins has to be a playmaker as well. And that O-line has to obviously hold up. But, like you said, when you have a defense of this caliber that can rush the passer, fast flow linebackers stopping the run, and also secondary members who can change the game. Caden Bullock had an outstanding game on Thursday night. That is the indicator of a team that nobody wants to face, even with some of their offensive limitations.
Yeah, they got a big game against the Colts. This division's still up for grabs. Another thing that I didn't think I'd say just a few weeks ago, considering how Indianapolis has been able to play. We got more to come here on Power Rankings, teams 17 through 32. The Dallas Cowboys might be the scariest of the rest of the teams that we haven't even name checked, where they could potentially finish this season. The answer to that is coming up next. Back here on Power Rankings, Eric's team 17 through 24. The Chargers right now sitting in that 17 spot. We'll talk Cowboys in just a moment. The Panthers at 19. The Bucs are free-falling right now at 20. More on them in just a moment. The Falcons at 21. The Dolphins at 22. And then it's the Vikings and Arizona Cardinals checking in at 23 and 24. Time for Team of the Week presented by Truist. So you got a Cowboys squad that sits 18th right now in your rankings. Dare I say they're one of the more complete teams in the NFL. Offensively, they look really strong. Running the football, Dak has got two of the better weapons in the NFL, and now the defense is healthy with some new additions, and they have special teams. Eric, am I crazy to think that they can make a run here?
They still made lots of mistakes in this game, even after they were chipping their way back from 21 down. But when Dak was on like he was, pretty much after the first quarter, and Brandon Aubrey kind of shook off that miss to make the game winner, all of a sudden you say, look at this defense. Look what Quinnen Williams has added. And he was banged up in that game, too. He was all over the place, incredible pressure. Sam Williams, Osa Odigizua, the guys up front. You have Overshown back in the lineup. I love the way this defense played on Sunday, and I thought they were, much better than we've seen pretty much all season. So if they can play to that level defensively, all of a sudden, very scary team. You don't want to be facing Pickens and Lamb and Prescott and have to slow those guys down.
You and I earlier this season were pretty high on Tampa Bay. We were believing in Baker Mayfield. At one point, they were number one in your power rankings. That was week number 7. They dropped 8 spots. They are 20th right now. What in the world is going on with this team?
Health is a big issue, obviously. Baker's trying to do too much, and he got banged up in that game. It sounds like that injury is not nearly as bad. It's his left non-throwing shoulder, so a little bit of relief there, but they're not able to generate those big plays offensively, and they're not able to stop those big plays defensively. I think the latter is really the bigger issue. But at least you could see the Bucs kind of win shootouts before. I don't think they're that team anymore. They're going to get Bucky Irving back at some point. They're still the favorites in this division. Carolina losing Monday obviously helped quite a bit, but you have to question whether this is a team capable of making a Super Bowl run like I thought they were when they were at full strength, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, they were able to navigate for a good stretch there, some of these injuries, but they are piling up. And that didn't look, I think, the way some had thought this past weekend against the Rams. Let's get to teams 25 through 32 right now. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, let's go. Back in the saddle on Thanksgiving. We'll see him. The Commanders at 26, the Browns at 27. We got the Giants at 28, followed by the Jets, the Saints, the Titans, and then the Raiders, who also made a change. Chip Kelly was relieved of his duties. But we do know from a Browns perspective at 27 here, Shedeur Sanders is their guy. We saw a couple explosive plays here. You like this move?
Well, look, it's interesting because Kevin Stefanski is a guy who wants to play within structure. You see a little check down here. That's exactly what he wants from his quarterback. But the play before, the long touchdown throw, that was a play out of structure. And that's really where I think Shedeur creates the most magic. That's the question I have. Is he compatible with Kevin Stefanski as a head coach? It looked decent the first game, even with an interception where he got fooled a little bit. But their 3 biggest plays of the year happened in this game. So you can't say he didn't add a little something to the offense there. We'll see if he can keep it up. But fairly promising, even with plenty of work to do. I'm looking forward to the next effort.
They had 10 sacks in the game as well. That'll help. Thanks for watching. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there.